asked, after I did a poetry reading here before, I got an email that said, we'd really like you to come back and maybe do this poem, and that was just such a warm and wonderful thing, and just like to reiterate that Conversations has been just more than supportive, just very welcoming and generous to a stranger. So I agreed to come and try to do this poem. It's called Mighty Will Triumph. I dabbled in backstabbing heathenism, but not wholeheartedly. Buried, partially dormant within me, impervious, a piece still left unwounded waits to live. I tried, trying tirelessly, trying contorting positions, wrestling incomprehensible judges. I believed I was meant for more. I don't know what that meant. I meant well. I tried. My father was a bold starter. I have a brother here, a couple step ones there, and a half-sister somewhere. Mid-childhood, my parents split custody. I spent half the year's weekends with my father, 4 days a month, 2 of those days devoted to church. My father slept in the pew and for an entire decade failed to mention God, creation, religion, morality, or prayer ever. But on we went, breaking, crumbling to rubble, my father and me. Each of us at separate points tried to restart, doubling efforts to find each other. We meant to try. I strained and floundered for my full potential, a much better finder than keeper. 42 part-time jobs, 7 demo tapes, 15 lost, notebooks of writings later, I landed in a halfway house. Walking is good, I'm told, to replenish endorphins. So I started running nightly. Committed to this halfway house by admission of utter defeat meant required church services. Church provoked an old cast of intolerant and belligerent children all about me, but in order to reach full potential, I needed this halfway house. Always an agnostic, jarring doctrines I met with a tickled frown. Decent people can descend, spiraling to or from religion, but a trace of comfort inside me refuses to submit to a belief in absolute nothingness. Imaginary? Perhaps. It is real to me. I am aware symbols and interpretations shroud, veil, and feed a human cancer devouring our evolution. Flags of gods, of tyrants, wave above captives, torturers, rapists, slave masters, indigenous, genocide, domestic matricide, wars of nations, wars of guerrillas, and wars of neighbors. But the same words and symbols of slaveholders also created solace for slaves, inspired spirituals, encouraged non-violent insurgents of civil change. I see great mothers, doctors, kings, peasants, and saints. I started praying in a manner I formulated in my head as a very young child. I began absorbing sermons objectively. I tried, I vowed to separate man from myth and message, mind from spirit. I became a fan of Jesus. Christianity, on the other hand, required a bigger leap. Questions only expanded the gap. So at night I would run, talk to God, to the clouds, to myself. I craved the childlike innocence of faith, running past the seedy chains and sketchy lots, past the filling stations, the freeway on-ramps and overpasses. I asked God Almighty for a sign. I prayed aloud to the sky. Show me a sign, dear God, if Jesus is Messiah, your crucified and risen martyred Son. Send me a bolt of assurance if it is true, this tale of salvation. I pushed on through the yellow traffic signal. Catching my breath under the overpass, I repeat my demand for a sign. I decrescendo into a flicker, zigzagging off the beaten path, and honest to God, I step on a copy of the New Testament, Matthew through Revelations. No Judges or Genesis, no 2 Kings, solely the New Testament. Jesus Christ in black and white at my feet. Let's recap. I asked God to confirm the Jesus story, and moments later I'm thumbing through a printed and bound account of the mysterious carpenter's son from Nazareth. I floated all the way back to the halfway house on a pink cloud. A profound shift was fostering rebirth. I was reborn, only not as a Christian. Thinking I had found Jesus does not officially grant one salvation according to certain men. There is a non-negotiable contract I was informed of. Confess with thou mouth and believe in thine heart, and thou shalt be saved. And even in the post-glow of my white light, I could not outfeel my skepticism. I recalled nights not so long ago, writhing on beds of death nails, treading pools of night sweats, begging God, if you just let me feel better, I promise I'll never do it again. And I knew then, like now, that God knew that I knew down deep I was lying. So I am to remain incomplete. Born again daily, I don't know how I've sensed droplets filling a languishing void, a turning within. Outside me, the scourges of humanity facing those about me is where I am led, magnified in the warmth of exultation, bringing me closer to being a part of the whole.